Welcome to the 14th part of Spring Boot Kubernetes tutorial series. In this video, we are going to implement Bookmarks Listing page. In the previous video, we have seen how to set up the layout, and we have added two pages. One is to list bookmarks page and one is to add bookmarks page. So we are going to work on this bookmarks listing page, where we are going to fetch the data from backend API, and then list of bookmarks will be displayed on this page. This is the bookmarks index page we have to display list of bookmarks. And if we take a look at the code, this is a simple React component where we are extending next page and then displaying the content. Also, if we take a look at plain React with TypeScript usage, usually we create our component by extending react.component or functional component, and while using TypeScript we specify what type of properties we are going to pass to this component. So here, by creating this interface, we are specifying we can pass count property to this component, so that within this component you can access all those properties that you are defined in interface. Okay, so in a similar way, we can also specify for next page what type of properties we are going to pass. For example, let's define a simple interface and let's call it home props. Okay, and let's say titles. I'm going to define titles, and it's going to be a string array. Okay, so here I can specify I am going to pass home props, so that within this I can access, let's pass it as props, and now I can access props dot titles, and then I can map it to a component. Okay, so this is how I can specify what type of a properties I am going to pass to this page via this interface, and specifying this here, and then I can access all those properties from this props. Okay, and earlier we have seen, instead of accessing via props, we can also define directly using destructuring here titles, and then we can access directly titles. Okay, and how do we pass data to this component? Okay, for this one, let us take a look at the Next.js documentation, where there are different ways of passing the data to this component. So if you go to this Next.js documentation, under docs, if you go to basic features, and then there is a section called data fetching, and if you go to overview, you can see there are different ways of displaying the data. Okay, so the first option is server-side rendering. Let's say we want to fetch some data from the backend API and then display the data. We can go for server-side rendering, where data fetching happens on the backend, and then it prepares the page content and then send the content to the UI. Whereas this static site generation, this is usually for generating the static sites like a blog or something like that, where you have your markup using any CMS or markdown files, and then you generate the entire content as a static HTML files. And then client-side rendering is, suppose you don't have any data fetching to display that particular page. For example, in add form, we don't need any data. First we display this form, and then when the user fills in the data and then submit, you send the request to the backend API. So in that kind of a scenario, we can go for client-side rendering. But for our bookmarks listing page, we need to fetch the data from backend API and then display all the data in the UI. Right? So we will go with server-side rendering. So this is how you need to add this function to your component. Okay, so here, but we are using TypeScript, so what we can do, const equals to sync, and we need to specify what type of get server side props. Okay, and here we can pass the data like we specified. We will pass the props like home props, which is containing titles, right? So here we can add titles, and it's going to be an array. So here bookmark 1, bookmark 2, okay. Okay, now let us see how the UI looks like. Yeah, you can see these two bookmarks are displayed here. So the way it works is when you request to this page, this gets executed, and then it will prepare all the properties that you want to pass to this page. And here we are simply passing these two property values statically, and then while it is rendering, it is going to take these titles and then looping through it and then displaying this as has2 components. Okay, so right now we are just adding these titles. Ideally here we are going to fetch the data from the backend API and then initialize all the bookmarks data so that we can display it in our home component. Okay, that's what we are going to work on. If we take a look at the backend API call, if you make a /API/bookmarks backend API call, this is the response structure we get. We get data which contains all the bookmarks information. So we'll get a page of bookmarks, and also we get total elements, total pages, current page, has next. So all these properties we'll get as part of the response. So we need to prepare a TypeScript interface to represent this data structure. Okay, so here I have created a folder called services and then created models.ts. So here I have created a couple of interfaces. One interface to represent bookmark data. So it has ID, title, URL, created it, updated it, properties, which represents one bookmark. And then another interface, bookmarks response, which contains data, which is nothing but an array of bookmarks, and all the other elements that represents this response elements. Okay, so we have this interfaces, two interfaces defined, and then we are going to use the most popular library Axios to fetch the data from backend API. Okay, let us stop this. We are using yarn, so we'll do yarn add Axios. Okay, so it's going to add Axios to it, and then in the same services, let us add api.ts file. Okay, so here first let us import Axios from Axios, and then let us define a function called export const fetch bookmarks equals to. So here we are going to make this API call like get, and let us define the base URL here, const API base URL. It is http localhost 8080. Okay, and here we are going to use API base URL /API/bookmarks. Okay, and if you don't specify anything, it's going to be returning a promise with any type, but we are going to define the type promise, and it's going to be this type, right? So let us specify this, and in order to let Axios knows this is the response type we are going to get, we can pass it here. Okay, and here we will await and const hold it onto response. Okay, and then we can return response dot data. But here, in order to use await, this is supposed to be a async function. Okay, so this is how we by default it assumes it's going to be a generic response, but we are getting response in this format, so we can specify for this get post whatever API call by passing this parameter that we are going to get response of this structure. Okay, and then we are awaiting for this response and then returning the data from it. Okay, let us go back to our index page and then let us change in home props instead of titles. Let us call it as bookmarks, and it is of type bookmarks response. And let us make the API call over here, const bookmarks equals to fetch bookmarks, and let us await. Okay, and instead of titles, let us pass bookmarks. Now let us remove this and make it as props, and here this props is going to contain props dot bookmarks dot data, and it contains each bookmark, and we are going to render bookmark dot title. Okay, so again we have updated the props to have a bookmarks which is of type bookmarks response, and then we are fetching we are making this backend API call and then passing that as a prop here, and we are extracting these bookmarks from the properties and then looping through the data property which contains all the array of bookmark objects, and then each bookmark we are mapping it to just to render title. Okay, so yeah, now if you go to the screen, it automatically rendered all the we are fetching page by page, right? We are getting all the bookmark titles on this thread here. Okay, if you take a look at this screen right now, it looks like this, but we are going to use pagination, right? So how do we go for page 1, page 2 like that? We are going to pass page equals to 1 or 2 or something like that. So in that case, right now it is always fetching the first page only, but we wanted to fetch based on this request parameter that we are passing, right? So how do we get these values? So if we go back to our code, here we have this context object. So here in context dot query, so here we can extract that page from here and then we can use it. Okay, so what we can do, let us use destructuring page, and basically it is going to extract the page from this query object. Okay, and it is of type string, but we wanted it to be a integer, and also let us update this fetch bookmarks to accept page parameter which is of type integer. Okay, and also for this we need to pass page equals to page. All right. Okay, and let us pass page here, but as I mentioned, this is of type string, right? So here we need to convert it to first parse int, but again this is of type by default either it is of string or string array or undefined. So first we need to convert it into a string and then passing it into integer. Okay, so now we are going to get based on the page. Okay, and what if URL doesn't include any page number? So we can define the default over here. In case if the page number is not specified, we are going to assign it to 1, right? So right now you can see you can see if we specify page equals to 2, we are getting the second page which contains only 2 records. And just to verify, let us go and page equals to 2, which contains only these 2 records. Okay, so we are getting this only these 2 records. If we go to page 1, it's getting the first page records, and let us see what happens if we don't include. So it's taking the default page value as 1 and then getting the data of page 1. Okay, cool. Right now we are simply iterating to the bookmarks and then displaying only the title, but we want to display it properly. So let us do one thing. Let us create a bookmarks component where it is responsible to render a page of bookmarks. Okay, so let us create a bookmarks dot dsx file. So here it's going to be const bookmarks, and it's going to extend from react dot functional component. Okay, and it is going to, okay, let us create the props for it. Bookmarks props. Okay, all right, and here we're going to wrap everything in div, and it would be so it's going to contain bookmarks of type bookmarks response. Okay, and here let us restructure bookmarks, and here let us loop through bookmarks dot data dot map, and for now let us just render in the same way like bookmark dot title. Okay, and let us use this bookmarks component in our index page. So instead of rendering like this, now what we are going to do, we are going to use this bookmarks and pass props dot bookmarks. Okay, now let us go back, and the effect should be same. What we are doing, instead of rendering that directly over here, we are using this bookmarks component and passing this bookmarks data to this component, and here exactly as earlier we are looping through this data and then displaying only title. And again, instead of doing like this, let us create another component called bookmark dot dsx, and here it's going to be const bookmark, which is going to extend from react functional component. Okay, let us again define what's going to be the interface for it. So this is bookmark props which contain one bookmark. So this is going to be bookmark type. So here we have single bookmark, right? It's going to be of this type, and here we are going to specify bookmark props here, and props we are going to use this. Now instead of directly doing like this, we are going to use, okay, let us first export it here. and here we should be able to import now, and what we can pass bookmark is bookmark. And also, because we are going to display a bunch of bookmarks same components, we should be specifying this key, which we can specify using id. Okay, so now from the UI point of view, it shouldn't change. It should still render the same bookmarks. So what we are doing, instead of directly rendering here, we used bookmarks component, and we are looping through all the data and then using the bookmark component. And again, in bookmark component, we are taking one bookmark and then rendering the title only here. Let us just make sure. Okay, let us include the URL, and then see, it is including all the URLs as well. Okay, so now we are going to update this to look a little bit nicer. Okay, so now let us add a bit of Bootstrap styling to look a little bit nicer here. So if you go to this Bootstrap documentation, there is alerts component where it will display depending on your choice. You can pick one, what are the style you want. So I'm going to take this div. Okay, and here, so by default IntelliJ automatically convert that class to class name, because class is a keyword in React, so we need to use class name. And then let us use h5. Okay, and here we want it to be a link, right? So here the title would be displayed like this. Okay, and we want it to open page in a new tab. And also earlier we have seen instead of using href of this anchor tag, we should be using link from the next page, next library, link. Okay, so link component is imported from next/link. So here we can specify what is the href value, and that is nothing but our bookmark URL. Okay, let us remove this. Cool. Now let us take a look at our, okay, what is the problem? Link with href, child is supported, multiple children were passed to. Okay, what do we have? Yeah, so cool. So we are able to display bookmarks just using this alert component. So the current data is being displayed like this, and I think this underlying is not looking good. So what we can do, we can apply class name with text decoration none. Okay, and if you see the underlying is gone and looks a little bit better, but I would prefer to put this in a class and then apply it rather than applying these classes. But yeah, this is how we can do it. Okay, next thing is right now we are displaying the first page, but we don't have any other UI element to navigate. So let us use this pagination. Bootstrap provides this pagination support. So what I did, I took this navigation markup and then I change it to accommodate into our React structure. So I have created this pagination component, which is nothing but a React component, and it is taking the same bookmarks response properties, and then we have a bunch of links, first page, previous page, next page, and last page. And then for each of the components we have these link elements in addition to these anchor elements, and also we have prepared the hyperlinks. What is the hyperlink for first page, previous page? Because we got the data bookmarks which contains has next, has previous, all this information, we prepare the first root path is nothing but /bookmarks, and we need to pass page value based on, if it is a first page, we can put statically what is the first page, nothing but 1, and for the last page, the page number would be, we got total pages element from the response itself, right? So we are assigning it to the page equals to total pages, and for previous page it would be like a current page -1, and for the next page current page +1. So these query parameters are going to be added after question mark page equals to whatever the value we have here. Okay, so now that we have a pagination component, okay, and here one more thing we are doing is we are enabling or disabling each of these next last buttons based on, does it has a next page. If it doesn't, we are disabling it. So we can see it in action. And let us go back to our bookmarks component, and in addition to displaying the actual data, let us include this pagination bar, and the data would be bookmarks. Okay, cool. Now if we go back to our screen, now we can see this pagination component here, because we are already displaying the first page. First and previous are disabled, okay? And we can go to next page, which displays the next 2 records in the second page. Okay, so here you can see they are getting disabled if it doesn't make sense. So when we are on the last page, there is no next or last, we are already on last, so these 2 buttons are disabled. Okay, cool. Again, if you have any questions, just go through this pagination component, and nothing fancy, we are just leveraging the markup from pagination component from Bootstrap and then updating with the dynamic data. Okay, and yeah, so I think we are in a good shape when it comes to bookmarks listing page, and I don't think we need this welcome to bookmarker anymore. Okay, let us remove this. Cool. Yep, that's all for this video. In the next video, we are going to work on having the bookmark search component. Okay, cool. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the upcoming videos. Bye bye.